the right to religious freedom, which by that again we mean worship Yahweh, they act like the government must give those rights. No, because then of course the government can take them.
I mean,
which is exactly what communist governments do.
Right. I think the Democrats they're on record at some point. Maybe Snerdley could find the clip of saying that rights aren't given by God; they're given by the government.
Yeah, we might have even played that clip before.
Yeah, I think we might
yes.
have played it.
Yeah,
because
that's
they
how
actually
many of them
believe
think.
that. Yeah, because the government. In the communist socialist worldview, the government is God.
The young kids, they don't want you to kind of sanitize all this stuff for them. They will come in flocks for you to say the blunt truth that you think is going to offend them. Yes, you need Jesus, but do you know why? And you only know what you're saved from if you talk about sin. So we focus everything on the fact that someone's going to save you from drowning, yet we don't tell a generation that they're drowning.
Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God over all.
From the mouths of angels, where the Bible doesn't simply say that God is holy, or even that he's holy, holy, but that he is holy, holy, holy.
We don't expect the world to understand us. We don't expect the world to understand how important, how essential, how singularly important the church is that proclaims the only message that can turn people from sin to God and from hell to heaven. The Bible tells us the world will not understand that.
That's right, friends. We're back here at the Hammer Podcast in our luxurious Hammer headquarters with half our theological brains tied behind our backs just to give the Arminians, the woke Christians, and
the progressives
a fighting chance. That's right. That's right.
And this is our nice temperature-controlled on a 100-degree day.
Yes, on a 100-degree day.
Studios. Snerdley, can we get a mini split in here, man?
Snerdley.
I guess, do we need some new sponsors?
Well, maybe we do need some new sponsors.
I mean, I'm drinking
Kingdom Coffee.
Yes, because I'm drinking like
a king.
That's right.
That's right.
So
we hope you guys have been enjoying your Kingdom Coffee. It's always smooth.
That's right.
Never acidic.
That's right.
It's the best.
Well,
today we wanted to dive into
July 4th weekend, man.
Yeah, July 4th weekend. We hope you see some fireworks and have a grand old time. But religious liberty and what
good time
that
to
means,
talk about it.
Yeah, what that
250
means.
years, huh?
Yeah, 250 years
of our nation. Yeah.
Well, and really, this was just the declaration of war, right? That then really didn't settle out until the 1780s, I think, 86 or something like that. And then some would even argue that the War of 1812 was still part of that conflict with England.
Yeah.
But interesting stuff.
So let's talk a little bit about just the anniversary of our nation. We've talked about off air, just kind of almost a generational divide in how it is seen.
Yes.
Not necessarily, not among our people, and of course not in our the Hammerverse, but you have a lot of we'll say older folks that are very patriotic.
Yes.
Excited to celebrate 250 years. You have some younger folks in our culture that have been taught that America is the big evil because slavery.
Right.
Say we've caused genocides in different parts of the world.
Never mind the fact that we were the ones that fought a war to end slavery.
Right. And look, the sad thing about slavery was not good. Sadly, however, if you were to say, I'm going to leave here because America had slavery, I'm going to leave here and go to a nation that didn't.
Yeah, right.
You're not going to be able to go anywhere.
There's some
You
that
know,
still actively
unfortunately-
have it.
Well, of course, throughout history, that's happened. Now, that doesn't justify it. That's not what we're saying. We're
Right.
just simply saying, unfortunately, because of sin.
right.
You know, again, I think sometimes, even as believers, we forget about the fall and the actual effect of the fall.
Right.
You're not going to find heaven on earth. This is not the new heaven and the new earth. So when you wax up your car, when you take the time to wash it and wax it, I don't know if you ever have done that, but you know,
I've
I
watched
kinda-
you do it.
yeah, I was raised
Yeah,
doing
I've
this,
watched
so
you do it.
so it's kind of therapeutic for me. But I realize in some ways this is a little bit of a waste of time, and you know, might make my car the paint last a little longer and so forth, right? But I mean, it's just going to be dirty again real quick,
Right.
because that's the world we live in.
Right.
If you're weeding a garden, now that's where I just gave up. I don't do that. I'll wax a car. I won't. Why? Because I'm not
Hey.
going to fight.
They always come back.
I'm not going to fight the curse.
They always come back.
You know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so because of the fall, America, absolutely, United States has not been a perfect nation. The problem is people are going to schools, colleges, and being told that America is like the worst nation,
Right.
which is just simply not true. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. What has made America a positive, good nation
Right.
for the most part?
Yeah, force for good. Now, there's a clip going around. I think it's a lady in England, right? But she's talking about the generation
Elton John,
Z. No.
or is that a guy? I don't know. All right, go ahead.
Hold me close, Tiny Dancer.
Yeah,
She's talking about Generation Z and Generation Alpha and how the boomers and the late millennials, like, they propagated all of this critical race theory and, you know, the cultural takeover, where in the institutions they were teaching
Yeah.
all these young people to hate America, right?
Yeah.
That it's, you know, George Washington, but he owned slaves. The guy that invented the airplanes, but they own slaves. The guy
Yeah.
that steam engine, they own slaves. And everything's viewed through that lens.
right.
And so that's why there's this divide where the older generation celebrates America for the good,
Yeah,
not unaware of the negatives. But I mean, we fought a
Right.
war to end slavery,
yeah,
right? It was Western civilization that all of a sudden woke up and said, you know what?
yeah,
Slavery's actually bad. We're not going to do that.
yeah. Exactly.
And they never talk about the slavery in other nations,
Yeah.
right? In other Arab worlds. And I think she brought up there's like some sort of the Arab slavery, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera.
Right.
But you know, I think that's where the divide
Well, and of course,
is.
there are different forms of slavery. We're not going to get into all of that because
Sure.
I mean, in the New Testament,
Sure.
you have a form of Roman slavery, right? So we're not getting into all that. But the point is just that the United States, I'm thankful to be born here in the United States. Now, our identity is in Christ,
Right.
right? Not in the American flag or in this nation. But we're going to really talk about religious freedom here
Right.
for a few moments. And let's just think about that. What does religious liberty or religious freedom, why is that so important? And how has that really set the United States apart? And how has it made the United States so great? And when I say so great, understand I'm coming from the position of somebody who's all about Scripture and the freedom to proclaim the true gospel.
Right.
Okay. Now, you can't do that in communist nations.
Right.
And socialism and communism are married,
Mm-hmm.
attached at the hip.
Mm-hmm. And we've
And-
seen
and-
a lot of communist
Yes.
socialists winning right now in the primaries against more establishment
Absolutely.
Democrats, which is very interesting
Yeah.
tide turn.
Yeah, and unfortunately, and again, not at our church, not in our Hammerverse, but there are a lot of young folks who buy into all this stuff
Mhm.
because, again, they're not old enough. They're ignorant of history, so they don't know anything about Mao in China. They don't know anything about Lenin,
Right.
And a lot of what they know about Hitler isn't even true. So, so anyway, there's an ignorance of history, and then they're getting their ears scratched.
Well, it was like Trump said the other day, I could be the best communist or socialist I want. I'll just tell everybody that houses are free, the food
Right.
is free.
Yes,
And he's like,
that's what I
everyone
mean.
would vote for
It's-
me.
Right.
And then in a couple of years, everything would fall apart because nothing is free.
Right,
Right?
right.
Things cost money.
Exactly. It's ear candy what
Mhm.
they're hearing,
Right.
right? And so all of this sounds great, and they never stop to think, well, how can this even be possible?
Right.
That's they're not even old enough really to think that,
Right.
right? So they've bought into this, some sort of utopia thing that's not real.
Well,
As-
and I think about how Charlie
Yeah.
Kirk was doing such a great job of engaging the young people on this
oh,
front
absolutely. Yeah,
and helping bring them to their senses,
that's right.
which
Yeah.
is another reason why they had to get rid of him
Yeah, yeah. Why?
Right, like
why
he
they
was
wanted to take him out.
effective.
That's right.
at doing this.
That's right. So let's talk a little bit about this religious liberty, and of course we'll talk about the nation a little
Yeah.
bit as we go along. But
Well, I think, okay, so if we go to the religious liberty piece, they always scream separation of church and state, separation
Yeah.
of church and state, as if it's like the state has to be a god unto itself, right? Which is what communism does. It's
Right.
socialism. They make the state the absolute.
yeah, government replaces God,
Correct.
and in socialism and communism, yes,
Correct. And so they've forced this separation of church and state down our throats
right.
to make us think that what the founders meant by that would there could be no religion in the government.
Yeah,
When you go back to the founding documents, right? And Eric Metaxas wrote this new book called Revolution,
Yeah.
which has been, they're hiding it in the mainstream bookstores, but Amazon does have it. And he's talking about like the founding of our country and how religious it was, and how all of our founders had some sort of idea of God, right? And that they were
Right.
bringing that to the founding of our nation. And so the right to freedom of speech, to practice our religion
right.
was in contrast to in Europe, you had each state had its
Yeah.
own religion, right? Each country had its own religion. And so in America, they were saying, no, we're not going to have a government religion. We're going to have freedom for all religions, right? All Christian religions was really at least their premise.
Right. Well, we're going to talk. Yeah, we're going
And
to talk
so-
about that.
And so, but you had in the 13 colonies, several of those colonies had like declarations of faith in Jesus
Yeah.
Christ as part of their, to become someone that would work in the government.
Right. Okay. So let's go back to something you said, because this is on my list to talk about. What religious freedom? What does it really mean?
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's religious freedom. I think as the founders
That's what I'm
thought
asking.
of it,
Right. What does
was
it?
was the freedom to practice your Christian religion in any different variation, whether it was Roman Catholicism, Protestantism,
Right.
Presbyterianism, Baptist,
Right.
Episcopalian.
Right. So the point is, it was to worship Yahweh, Jehovah God,
Correct.
no other God,
No other
because
God.
there wasn't any thought that there is any other God.
Correct.
There's one true God, Jehovah God.
Right.
Okay, that's my point. So, religious freedom is the freedom to worship Yahweh, the
Mhm.
freedom to worship Jehovah God
Yeah, the one true God.
in your particular way with different nuances.
Mhm.
Okay, it was never the idea, and I think most of our Hammerverse knows this, but most of our nation certainly doesn't. It was never the idea that this would be religious freedom means you can worship any and every false god.
Mhm. Baal, the Asherah.
Right. None of those.
Right. Satan.
And we absolutely, as believers, should not in any way, shape, or form. I'm not, like people say, are you for religious freedom? Yes, I'm for freedom to worship Yahweh. That's
Mhm.
it.
Right.
Are you for the, do you believe religious freedom for the Muslim in America? No.
hmm Yeah, they're not.
Oh, that sounds
compatible.
harsh. I don't care if that sounds.
Right.
I'm not worried about what you think it sounds like. I'm worried about what God thinks.
Yeah, that's right.
And this, and this is important because you see even believers sometimes. Nah, well, they should have the right to. No,
Russell Moore at the SBC
yes, I
was
know.
talking about.
I know. I
building
wasn't going to bring up
mosques.
his name, but since you brought up Russell, no more.
Yeah, the guy's. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They
Yeah.
aren't compatible. Our country, our values are not compatible with these false religions.
Right. And again, the founders had there was nothing in their mind where they're thinking of other gods
Mm-hmm.
being worshipped.
Right.
That's the point. Were all the founders born again believers? No.
Right.
But by and large, from everything we know, I haven't been able to get into a time machine and go back.
Right.
So I don't know. Okay. But from everything we know, the founders were all at least God-fearing people.
Right.
Now, let me give an explanation. Does not mean they were all born-again believers, though there were many involved, very instrumental, even who weren't technically founders, right?
Mhm.
They absolutely were believers, okay? At least it would seem that way based on what they wrote.
Right.
But even those who you would read what they say and you say that they would be what we would call God-fears,
Mhm.
and even the Bible
Mhm.
would use that term God-fear. What's the difference between a God-fear and a God-denying atheist? Well, the God-fear may not say Jesus is my Lord and Savior, but they understand there's a God, a deity, who's going to ultimately judge them one day.
Mhm. Right.
And so hopefully that will keep them from killing the person down the road.
Right.
Now, the believer says, I'm not going to lie, cheat, steal because Jesus is my Lord and Savior. And I'm not to do that,
Mhm.
right? And I'm to be a new creation.
Mhm.
The God-fear might not say, I'm not going to kill or rape or do this or that because Jesus is my Lord and Savior. They might say, I'm not going to do these things because I know I have to answer for them ultimately
Mhm.
before God,
Right.
before the supreme being of the universe.
Right.
Okay. That's starkly different than somebody who says, well, God doesn't exist.
Mhm.
Well, I never have to answer for this.
I can do whatever I want.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we mean. That's what I mean when I say that all the founders, and then even beyond the founders, from what we can see, were at a minimum God-fearing people, and there were a great many believers involved.
Right.
So,
No, they really were. And so it's just it's not even within the realm of possibility that our founders intended for freedom of religion to mean they can practice all these other false worship.
right.
Because even the founder said, it's a republic if we can keep it, and it requires like a righteous religious people that have self-governance.
Right.
Right. So that doesn't mean a saved people,
Yeah.
but it does mean that like they fear God enough
Yeah.
that they're not gonna rob somebody or murder somebody
Yeah.
or rape somebody because they have self-governance. They have awareness of who they are.
It requires, a conscience,
Right.
as some of them said. Now, let me ask you this. Is religious liberty, as we just defined it, which is what the founders meant,
Mm-hmm.
the freedom, the liberty to worship Yahweh, Jehovah God, okay? No false gods, okay? Is that freedom a God-given right, or is that a right that the government gives?
Yeah. Well, I think all of our rights.
I
come
don't care
from
what you
God.
think. Tell me facts.
Okay. Well,
I don't care about your feelings.
it's a right given by God, protected by good government.
Okay, protect right, which
It's protected by governments that function properly.
yeah,
Governments that aren't functioning properly are going to stifle
Yeah.
God natural rights, as some would call it,
yes,
but God-given inalienable rights.
right, yeah,
And
absolutely.
I mean, I think you see that because in the garden, the expectation is that you are free and to worship Him. To
yeah,
worship
absolutely. And this again is where we as believers, when we're engaging our culture, just kind of as an apologetic, we need to remember we're engaging a culture where they think that certain God-given rights, like the right to life,
God.
But the right to religious freedom, which by that again we mean worship Yahweh, they act like the government must give those rights. No,
Right.
because then of course the government can take them,
I mean, I
which
think
is exactly what communist governments do.
right. I think the Democrats they're on record at some point. Maybe Snerdley could find the clip of saying that rights aren't given by God; they're given by the government.
Yeah, we might have
Right?
even played that clip before.
Yeah,
on
I
here,
think
but,
we
but
might
yes,
have played it.
Yeah,
Because
and
they,
that's
they
how
actually
many of them
believe
think.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the government, in the communist socialist worldview, the government is God. So it's the arbiter of all things to all people.
Right.
And that's why they, those types of, governing bodies
hmm
have to have some sort of cultural revolution where they push religion and cultural identity out of a society so that they can remake it in their own
Right.
own image.
So let me ask you this: Christian nationalism, whatever that is, because a million different definitions out there today for that, right?
Yeah.
But I have heard some say, well, to say that there should only be religious freedom to worship Yahweh, to worship Jehovah God,
Mhm.
the God of the Bible, to say that there should only be religious liberty to worship the God of the Bible is to be a Christian nationalist or a form of Christian nationalism. How would you answer that?
Well, then I guess call me a Christian nationalist, right?
right.
I mean, the word games are tiring among the elite educated class.
Yeah.
They tried to call us racist, right? They tried to call us bigoted. They tried to call us Islamophobic,
Yeah.
right? Homophobic, whatever phobic. And now the latest is, oh, you're a Christian nationalist. Like somehow have to be afraid of a word
Right.
that Russell Moore says with some sort of condescension or when he speaks it. Oh, you Christian nationalist.
Well, I'd rather be a Christian nationalist than a liberal who is quite feminine, like
Yeah.
Russell no more, but nonetheless. But no, we're not Christian. That's not Christian nationalism.
Right.
That is biblical truth, right?
Right.
We're to worship one God,
Right.
Yahweh,
Well, I mean, I think we've
and
been-
and it's a God-given right.
Right. And we've been going through the Old Testament in different venues. And it's just interesting how Israel's always judged when they synchronize with the other religions
Mm-hmm.
and when they shun the other religions and embrace the true worship of Yahweh,
Yeah,
they're doing what's right in the eyes of God.
that's right.
Now, obviously, America is not Israel,
No,
right?
no,
But principally, the truth that a nation that worships the one true God is better off than a nation that tries to mingle with all the other religions of the world.
well, absolutely. Blessed is the nation
Mm-hmm.
whose God is Yahweh.
Right.
Okay. Now, as you say, and even that verse has most specific reference to Israel, but Israel was known in the Old Testament as the nation who worships Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
Israel it wasn't about Israel. When God chose, we've preached on this, when God chose Israel, it was about God,
Mm-hmm.
which is, by the way, why God will fulfill everything he promised to Israel, because it's not about Israel.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about each individual Jew. It's about God. It's about his faithfulness. It's about what he's doing.
His promise to his word.
So
yeah.
no matter where you're at theologically, don't allow some system of theology to take that out of it. Okay. This is about God.
Mm-hmm.
So all the other nations knew. The Egyptians knew. The Babylonians knew. Chaldeans knew.
Mm-hmm.
You can keep going on and on. They all knew what makes Israel different is their God.
Right.
Number one, they worship one God,
Right.
right? And it's Yahweh.
Right.
It's Jehovah.
It's fascinating as you read through Daniel how Nebuchadnezzar's interactions with Daniel and
Yeah.
the one true God. I mean, and Nebuchadnezzar was not a weak man. It was the most powerful nation
Yeah, at that time.
consolidated,
Humanly
nation,
speaking, yeah.
humanly speaking. And he has all these very favorable responses to Daniel and the one true God. And then he gets turned into the animal. And then he comes out and, whether he repents
Right.
technically or not,
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know if Nebuchadnezzar actually got saved or not.
Right.
It almost kind of looks like that.
it feels like it at
It doesn't.
times.
It doesn't tell us.
Yeah.
Again, I don't care about your feelings. How many times I got to tell you this?
No
Here
feelings.
at the Hammer Podcast,
Facts,
we go by facts over feelings.
That's right. Facts over feelings. Which
Even
actually,
if all the hosts don't realize that yet. Okay, now,
yeah. Okay, so when you read through Daniel,
yeah.
it appears by some of the things he says
Mhm.
that a saved person could say that, and an unsaved person wouldn't say that.
Yeah, Nebuchadnezzar. No, I hear
know?
you. I mean, he's out there in the living like an animal. But so now let's bring this back. So we've defined religious freedom. We've said this is a God-given right. Now let me say why one of the reasons I say the United States is such a great nation historically, and why I can celebrate it. Again, I'm not as excited like I've talked to some older folks here and there recently, and they're really all about the 250th anniversary, and I appreciate that. I like that. I'm having a hard time getting real excited about it from the standpoint that I don't see a bright future when I think of the United States.
Right.
Now, understand, I see a bright future when I think of the Bible and the Lord's imminent return, and
Right.
okay, he's going to fix all the ills, right? I get that. But when I look at our nation, I don't see us headed in the right direction. I think, as I mentioned on Sunday, I think we're under the judgment of God right now, though he hasn't taken his hand completely off, I don't believe, and he's been gracious even in the judgment to give us a Cyrus, as I've mentioned before, but Cyrus doesn't save anyone, only Christ does.
Right.
Right. So having said all of this, when I celebrate, it's kind of tempered in terms of like looking at the future and all that. I mean, we've still got the transgender crazies are still out there. They're, we've got, as you talked about, these socialists gaining momentum in the Democratic Party.
The Supreme Court just ruled that
Yeah.
anybody can have a baby here, like they can walk across the border,
Yeah.
be a Trinidad criminal, have a baby, and now that baby is a citizen of the United States.
Yeah.
Right? So talk about importing the third world into our country.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Yeah. And in order for that, somebody, I mean, you have a couple of the liberals, they're always going to be on the liberal side, but there's so much that goes on that we're unaware of. I think somebody had to get to at least bear it on there. But
and you got to think,
these
they
people
can-
have families, they have children,
and she's a woman,
and things
they
are
can
sad.
threaten her
Absolutely.
totally different than they can threaten
Absolutely.
Kavanaugh and Gorsuch.
Yeah, and I think some of that, well, there's no question some of that has gone on throughout history.
100%.
And I think maybe at play here, though I have no facts of that.
Because she has
but
young
I
kids.
think,
I think
right.
she has the youngest kids
Yeah.
of anyone on the Supreme Court right now. So, I mean, the amount of things
Yeah.
they could do to force her into whatever
Right.
position they want are
Yeah.
endless.
Yeah, but that to me is just a crazy ruling. But be that as it may, and there again, another reason why I'm like, I
Right.
don't know about the future
I mean,
of this country.
They say there's 1 million Chinese who have just
Yeah.
come over in American waters, birth babies, go back. They're soon in the next couple of years turn 18.
Yeah,
And then because of all of our overseas voting, they can be in Shanghai or Hong Kong or
Yeah.
Beijing and cast votes in American elections.
right. Can't vote
A
for
million,
whoever.
a million votes.
Right. Vote for whoever Xi wants to vote. Yeah, it's,
Right.
it's crazy.
That's why
It's
President
crazy
Trump
stuff.
said, "Congratulations to President Xi on his win in the Supreme Court."
Yeah.
The other day.
No, I didn't hear that part. But anyway, yeah, right. And see, but what you just explained, a lot of people don't even know.
Right. they're
Birthright
not-
citizenship. What does this mean? They don't get how it impacts voting and then will impact the nation. Okay. Now, having said all of this, one of the reasons I think America's such a great nation is this. I'm all about the Bible, the gospel.
Right.
So that's why I preach the best gospel candidate, right?
Right.
Okay. Now talk about the best gospel nation.
Right.
That's the United States. No nation in history has sent out as many missionaries as the United States.
Right.
Now, I realize not every missionary is what we would consider evangelical or doctrinally sound, but no country has sent out as many missionaries as the United States.
Yeah.
Now, how did that happen?
Not
Oh,
by accident.
Right. It happened by all the things that they're trying to tear down now. It happened because of religious liberty,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it happened because of our economics,
Mm-hmm.
okay? The so-called bad capitalism,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everybody says capitalism is terrible. Again, give me a perfect system. You won't.
Right.
But socialism isn't the answer. And the
Right.
thing is, there's so much proof that it isn't the answer. But
Right.
these young folks don't know it. They,
Right.
they don't hear it. It's it's the whole thing of, hey, here's a pill. Buy this pill, and you don't have, doesn't matter what you eat, you don't have to work out at all, and you're gonna look like the Rock. You're gonna look like Brad Rock.
You're gonna look like
You're
Brad
gonna look
Rock.
like Brad Rock after 90 days. Just buy this pill, right? And why would there be people that would buy it? Because, oh, I love that. No thought about, well, how can this possibly work? It can't, right? But anyway, so, and even today, believe it or not, the United States still sends out more missionaries than other nations. Now, South Korea is right on our heels there with that. Latin America sending out a lot of missionaries. And interestingly, the United States also receives more missionaries than other nation. Now, a lot of that has to do with, a lot of times missionaries will come here for some sort of reprieve or what have you. But so again, you have to say there's something blessed and special about a nation who in 250 years has sent out all of these missionaries.
Right.
There's something special about that. There's God's blessing, God's hand in that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think we do ourselves an injustice to pretend like that doesn't exist and then say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. We just worship God. Okay, well, good. We should worship God. And we're in a nation that has been able to send out more missionaries, and we want to continue that operation. And so if we can vote for the best gospel candidates,
Yeah.
then we should continue to do that. Right?
Snurdly, what's going on with my phone here? Bennett, I'll call you back later, buddy. Keep going.
Okay.
I'm sorry. My ringer off
Snurdly's
here.
getting all these calls.
Yeah,
Can you please handle that for us, Snurdly?
Yeah. And how about turning the AC up?
No, it's better when we're in the hot Hammer headquarters.
Well, how about if I do the sponsor today? The
Yeah.
Truth. We're sponsored by The Truth. The truth is we are burning up in here.
Oh, and living water. Don't forget living water.
Oh, yeah.
Never go thirsty again. Never go thirsty again. Yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, America's it's lost its way because of the synchronism with secularism
Absolutely.
and all of the pagan, they don't call it religion.
Right.
They think that to be an atheist is the most scientific, but it takes faith. Everyone knows there's a God.
Right. Yeah.
All the
right.
pagan nations worship gods because it's evident to all humanity there is a God. Only the fool says in his heart there is no God.
Well, let me ask you this, and then we'll kind of wrap it up with this, because I'll have some things to say Sunday as we kind of have a special sermon, taking a break from 1 Thessalonians, thinking about the United States, 250 years. What does it mean in terms of gospel impact and so forth? And what do we need as a nation? If there's going to be any turnaround, what do we need as believers? How should we be living our lives, acting, that sort of thing, right? And this will be a larger, we'll have to do a whole episode, maybe several on this. But there's this interesting merger, it seems like, in our nation, starting, of course, in New York, but between Islam and socialism,
Yeah, the Red Green Alliance,
which
right.
is just bizarre.
Very bizarre.
Like if anybody that has ever studied socialism and studied Islam, you would how can they possibly go together, right?
Right.
You have all of these socialists. It's just a remarkable thing.
Well, strange bedfellows to take over the nation, and then
Yeah.
once they take over the nation, they'll decide who's going to survive and who's not.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And the Muslims will probably kill all the socialists because they're more violent. But the socialists are pretty violent too. I mean, you know,
it's
Posobiec wrote that book, Unhumans, talking about communism and socialism throughout history and how violent they are. But yet they love women's rights, right? They're all for protecting women.
yeah. So they say, right?
And children. They want to affirm children.
Yeah. That's
and I
that's the
think-
whole thing with.
I think we just have to keep calling it out, right? Like, and you know, obviously the ideal is that there would only be the worship of Yahweh in America.
Right.
We're not in ancient Israel, you know, so Phinehas or Elijah, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Though we're not there, but that's the ideal. And like Charlie Kirk used to always say, the only way we can move from one position to another is look at an ideal and then start moving towards that.
Oh, hey,
So-
hey, I'm praying that God sends us some Phinehas's. I'm not going to be Phinehas tomorrow, okay? But I'm praying God sends us some Phinehas's.
Yeah.
I am disgusted when people worship false gods. I am disgusted when people claim there's any other God than Jehovah God, than Yahweh. And I don't know how you can't be.
Right. If you're a true believer, I don't know how you can't be either. Right. But it's because they've been grooming Christians to be more and more inoculated to this stuff, that it's okay. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, religious liberty actually means that you can worship Satan, the Baal, Moloch, Hindu, Islam, right? It means that you can worship all gods. And they just keep saying it over and over again. You know, you say a lie long enough, people eventually believe it.
Yeah.
And they've done that. And Christians stood by and let it happen. Right? Like what did Christians do when they took prayer and Bible out of schools? Right?
Right.
Like they tried to stop it, but clearly they didn't have enough influence.
And I think the warning for us there, and we'll wrap it up with this, but the warning there for believers is not to fall into the trap of not being engaged in culture and even in the political realm. Right now, we don't want to, and I'm going to talk about this on Sunday, so I don't want to use all my thunder here, but on the one side, we don't want to fall in the trap of thinking that a political party is going to save us, that MAGA is going to save us,
That Trump's the savior.
that this is and I hear some of these older folks who reminisce about Ronald Reagan and his presidency.
Yeah.
And I'm not against Ronald Reagan. I actually
His
think
vice president was not very great.
no.
But
But it's like, okay, look where we're at now.
yeah,
And
look
we
at
had
where we're at
Reagan,
now.
right? So I think with all the pressure and everything he's got on him, I think arguably I think Trump is a better president
Yes.
with everything he's had to fight. Now, is he as dignified as Ronald Reagan? No. But anyway, having said all of that,
Yeah, but we're in a time where
MAGA's not going to save us. Trump isn't going to, right? So we want to make sure we don't think like we're going to be saved by politics. No.
right.
But the other end of the spectrum is, since we're not going to be saved by politics, we just stay completely out of it, which is, again, is completely ridiculous and I believe unbiblical. And that's one of the things Francis Schaeffer helped teach us.
It aids and abets the enemy, right? Evil prospers when
Right.
good men do nothing.
Yeah.
And so, you
Yeah,
know,
that's right.
we got to get into the
So,
fray.
this is going to be a hot fourth.
Yes.
It's already hot today. And now I just looked at my phone. It kept going vacillating between 99 and 100. Now I see 101 on my phone.
That sounds really pleasant for all of those
Yeah.
living in the Lynchburg area. We've got some hammerheads that are traveling. Hopefully it's cooler for them.
Go to Canada.
That's
I never
right.
thought I'd say that.
We'll see you in 168
Hours.